Hey guys, how you doing? This is Paul, and I've been using LG's latest flagship, the G4, as my daily driver for about 2 weeks now, and I've noticed a lot of small differences between this year's G4 and last year's G3. So it's a little bit bigger than the G3. Also, there's a very minor curve in the display. It's pretty hard to even notice. The battery life is a bit better, and the software that LG has on here is a little bit different, but undoubtedly the biggest difference between the G4 and the G3 is the camera. So in today's video, we're going to be putting the camera on the G4 head to head with last year's camera on the G3. Enjoy! So getting the specs out of the way, we'll see that the G3 had a 13 megapixel shooter with an aperture of f2.4. It featured laser autofocus, optical image stabilization, 1/3 of an inch sensor size, and dual LED flash. This year's G4 features a slightly higher 16 megapixel camera, an aperture of f1.8, which is the widest aperture of any smartphone we've seen so far. We see the laser autofocus making a comeback along with the optical image stabilization, a slightly higher sensor at 1/2.6 inches, and instead of the dual LED flash, we see a single LED and a brand new color spectrum sensor, which supposedly gets really accurate white balance. It also has a brand new manual mode and is capable of shooting raw images, which I'll talk about later. Okay, so now we have some sample pictures taken on both the G3 and the G4. All these pictures were taken on the exact same settings for a fair and accurate comparison, and you guys can just sit back and watch and judge for yourselves which ones you like better, and I'll be back in just a minute to give you guys some of my opinions on the pictures. Okay, so now I'm going to give you guys some of my opinions of this comparison. Starting out here with the picture of the stream, you can see that the G3 and G4 both have very distinct colors. Here, the G3, the colors are very cool, and then on the G4, it's very warm and saturated. So I guess technically the G4 is a bit more color accurate as to what this stream and these leaves were in real life, but neither were completely color accurate. So in this picture, you can see that the G3 did a good job of reproducing the colors accurately, but the G4 saturates so much that in some situations like this, it's just way too green and does not look very good at all. In this situation where I was trying to get a close-up of these flowers, the G3 did not do a very good job because it doesn't have the shallow depth of field that the G4 has. These flowers here just look kind of blended into the background, and it's pretty hard to distinguish these flowers, and it just looks kind of like a jumbled mess. But the G4, on the other hand, is able to get that really nice clean bokeh blurry background because of that shallow depth of field with that you get with the f1.8 aperture. So this gives the G4 a big advantage on close-up pictures like this. One thing I wanted to mention, the G4 seems to always crop in a bit on each picture. Like, I took this picture from the exact same position, and you can see over here the roof of this building is cropped in more than it is on the G3. This isn't a good or bad thing, but I just found it kind of interesting that it does that. So here we're able to see where the G4 has a slight edge in sharpness. Here are the original pictures, the G4 and the G3, these two pictures, and then you can see when I zoom in, the G3 loses a bit of detail on the bridge with these stones, and then the G4 is still pretty sharp and you can see the details even when it's cropped in a whole lot. So I think the G4 has a big edge on the G3 in low light situations. The G3 here is pretty noisy and blurry overall, and then the G4 still looks super sharp. Now really quickly before we wrap this video up, I wanted to mention a feature that the G4 has that the G3 doesn't, and that is manual mode. Now pro photographers are going to love this feature because it essentially allows you to change all the settings in the camera just like you would be able to do with a DSLR. Another cool thing is that the G4 is capable of not only shooting JPEG like all other smartphones, but it can also shoot RAW. So if you don't know what RAW is, it's basically a file format just like JPEG, but unlike JPEG, it pretty much captures all the data that goes into the sensor when you take a picture, and this allows for much easier editing. So the average user probably wouldn't shoot RAW, they would probably just stick to JPEG. But like I said earlier, RAW is more for people who are really into photography. So in conclusion, both the G3 and the G4 take pretty great pictures. Sometimes the G4 tends to oversaturate a bit, and neither are exactly color accurate, but I think the G4 is the overall winner because of that wide open aperture. It performs really great in low light, and it's able to get that nice blurry background. So guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe for some more content coming soon. Thanks.